Hi guys, I just wanted to walk you through really quickly how to conduct an ANOVA in Excel. So this file that I'm working with right here is the file that is on Canvas as part of your participation activity number 10. That's labeled ANOVA in Excel. And so that's in the Unit 3 module. So if you open up that Excel file, it should look something like this. So we have 3 different groups representing students from 3 separate majors. So we have economics, medicine, and history. And we're looking at salaries of graduates, so like 42,000, 69,000, 35,000, so on and so forth. So the first thing that we can do is what we've already worked with, which is getting the averages. And so we can get the average salary for each of these 3 groups. So I'm going to type in my equals, average, and select the data for economics. And I can do the same for each of my other 3 groups. What I'm going to do is actually just click on this, click right here in the corner, and drag it across, which will fill this formula and update it for each of my 3 columns or my 3 groups. So this is the average salary for each of my 3 groups. Another thing that I could do is I could get the average for the entire sample. And so if you read about ANOVA, that can be valuable information, right? So we're kind of looking at the differences in the averages of the 3 groups, and we can look at the average of the entire sample. So across majors, what is the average salary of all of our students? And so we get 49.92. Economics is 48.33, medicine 60, and history 43.66. So it looks like economics is just a little bit below the overall average, history quite a bit below, and medicine is above average. But really what we're asking is there a significant difference between these 3 groups? So should we think about these as kind of 3 separate distinct groups, or as 3 random samples all drawn from the same population of students in general? And so we can look at our ANOVA formula. So if you added in the data analysis pack, you'll already have this. If you haven't, then you can go to File and you can click Options and Add-ins. And you'll see Analysis Tool Pack. And you can add that in. So I've already added it in, so I'm going to click Cancel. You can find that if you click on Data, and you'll see right over here, Data Analysis. And so I'm going to click that, and you'll have a lot of different options. So one, you have descriptive statistics, and we'll kind of look at that later. You have t-tests that we've talked about. We'll discuss correlation later, and we've got ANOVA, which is what we're going to do today. So, all right, let's select ANOVA single factor, which is really just asking us how many variables do we have, and we just have 1 variable of major, right? But we have 3 different groups for major, but it's still just 1 variable of major. And then we have our dependent variable, which is salary. So we're looking at single factor, so I'm going to click OK. All right. And then it's asking me to select my data, which I am going to. So I'm selecting the data. All right, it's asking if it's grouped by columns or rows. It's grouped by columns because we have each of our majors in different columns. This is asking labels in first row, so let me actually change my data so that I get the labels. And then that way in my output, it'll label it by the major labels that I have here. So I'm clicking yes, the first row is labels for each of my 3 groups. We want it testing at an alpha of 0.05, so that's what we've been working with, that p less than or equal to 0.05. So that's how it's going to test for significance. This right here is asking, do we want our output in a new worksheet? And so I'm going to say yes and click OK. And so if you see, it's placing it in a new worksheet. So in sheet 1 is my data that I was working with. It created a new one that has my analyses or my results. So right up here, this is important information because it's telling you which analysis it did. So we had selected ANOVA. That's great. It's giving you some summary data on the different groups. So you can see our group size or our N for each group wasn't exactly equal. So we had 9 people in economics, 7 in medicine, and 9 in history. Here, it is giving you the averages for each of those 3 groups. So that should match what we got, and it looks like it does. It's also giving you the variance. We could, from this, get the standard deviation if we wanted to, by just taking the square root of each of these numbers to get the standard deviation if we wanted that. All right. And you can see that it gives us all of the information that we would get from doing this by hand. And so it's giving you, this stands for sum of squares. This is between groups. This is within groups. It's giving you your degrees of freedom for between groups, within groups. It's giving you your total sum of squares and your total degrees of freedom. And then it's giving you your mean square between, within. This is your F value, and it's giving you the P value and the F critical value, right, which you would get from the table. So we want our calculated F to be greater than our F critical, which it is, which means that this should be significant. If you notice how it's reporting it is kind of somewhat weird here. So it's giving you exponent to the -5. So just kind of saying that this is a pretty small number here. Let me see if I can get it to actually give us the decimal value rather than this kind of weird exponent. So if I click number and it's giving me 0, 0, 0, right? So our p-value is less than 0.05. It's actually less than 0.001. So we have a significant difference between our group means for our majors. All right, and so this is what you'll need to do for that activity number 10, ANOVA in Excel. And also, if you want to do the Excel stats, Excel and Stats 5. So you have a workbook. If you notice, you have 2 different options. So the second option is for those of you who don't have this analysis add-in. There is a way where you can take each of these, you can subtract X minus the mean, square it, sum it all together to manually kind of input all of the formulas to get your sum of squares between groups, your sum of squares within groups, your mean squares, your F, so on and so forth. To kind of do this through hand typed in formulas. This is just with this data analysis add-in, kind of a shortcut. All right, so I will post this along with an online tutorial from Excel, kind of like what I gave you guys for the t-test. And so try it out, see what you get. If you have any problems or trouble with it, just let me know.